Hey guys, hey everyone, what's up? We're back. It's Jess and Cole. We're back continuing our series of live commentaries of animated features. And today is kind of a pretty different one, I think, in that we've gone to. It's weird, like, because this is Felix the cat. So in some ways, he's sort of a giant, and in other ways, he's obscure. He's weird. He's one of the most enduring characters. And he is sort of the original animated star, predating Mickey Mouse. He's over 100 years old. He debuted in 1919, and for the first few years of his existence, was very popular. And by like the late 20s, was sort of at his peak, was like the most popular character, and was really the forerunner to what we would see Mickey Mouse adopt, and then later things of like a popular character being like merchandised and selling toys and things with his likeness on. I mean, to this day, the Felix the clock cat clock, I think, is a really known thing that I think people recognize. That's the thing. The other thing is, he's endured and he's recognizable, is what it is. Like, most people the world over know Felix the cat. Maybe they don't. They know him from this or that, or he's had various incarnations. But most people know him and recognize him. Like, all I can remember is, besides the movie we're going to get to in the early 90s, which I did watch way back then because it came on the Family Channel or the Disney Channel, as it's known. Also, I can recall just like shortly after that, my favorite hockey team, when I started watching hockey when I was about 9 years old or so, brought up a rookie goaltender named Felix Potvin, who to this day remains my favorite ever goalie and one of my favorite players. And his nickname was the Cat. He was Felix the Cat because he had cat-like reflexes and a quick glove hand. And sometimes he would have a goalie mask. Sometimes he'd have like Felix artwork on it. Side note to that, my other favorite goalie was Curtis Joseph, whose nickname was Cujo. So sometimes he would have some nice Cujo art on his mask. So, but anyway, as far as like my understanding of Felix at that point was like, yeah, I knew he was in cartoons. I couldn't really tell you what cartoons or when or exactly when I'd seen them, but I knew that Felix was something that existed and his face would show up and people would recognize the name Felix the cat. So it's just like, just an odd history, because like he's been around for over 100 years, but he's been mostly dormant the last few decades, particularly recently. And like every time he's popped up, he's been a little bit different than what came before. But I just think he's still one of the most important figures in animation history. He has to be. He's the original animated star, even though he would be far surpassed by Mickey Mouse. There was a brief period in the 20s where he was, one of the big pop culture stars of the day, and everybody knew him. So what's your own sort of recollections and reminiscence of the character?
I thought we were watching Fritz the cat. No.
Yeah. We might get to that one eventually.
Very similar to what you just said, though, I mean, I've always known who Felix the cat was, what he looked like. He's been kind of this iconic character, except other than maybe his own string of old cartoons, I didn't know where he was from beyond that, or a comic strip, which is probably really what he is. Right. He's just stuck around so long, which is amazing because there hasn't been much, at least in our generation, blow up media, movies, TV shows about him that have really worked.
No. And he's never come close to getting back to the fame he had in the 20s. Like, the various revivals have had differing levels of success, some not at all, but even the most successful ones, would never come close to that. It's funny now, because now that in researching the history of the character and everything like that, like like his 90s show, which actually was sort of a direct result of at least his name getting out there because of this movie, as bad as this movie actually is, I'm going to warn you people, it's not a good movie. But the Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat is actually very good. I've watched episodes on YouTube, and I would highly recommend it. It's a great example, of course, of what a lot of 90s cartoons were like. If you're familiar with something like the weird surrealism of something like Rocko's Modern Life or something, you'll find that in this. But it does take the original sort of roots of the original Felix from like the 20s, where he was something of like a, what's the word I'm trying to think of, kind of a scamp or a mischievous character. And he hasn't always had that identity, and he's not in that identity in this movie. And this movie, if it's going to take from anything, there was I say short-lived, but it actually produced like well over 200 episodes because they were short. There was a show in like the, what was it, late 50s, it was like the late 50s, something like that, or maybe early 50s. And it ran, from 59 to 62. So only 59 to 62, but and in that one he was very sort of like this was finally his first like color appearance and things, and it was very much following the Disney mold. He was, more like a wide-eyed, innocent, funny animal character. They took away some of his edge. So one of the things you can appreciate about the '90s show is that it brings back some of his old original roots of being, more of a rascal and being sarcastic and things like that, and not necessarily just always being like super good or moral. Not like you'll see him do bad things, but you'll see him do selfish things or things just for the hell of it. And I highly recommend that cartoon. I feel like I missed out on it in the '90s because I guess I was my Felix for Felix back then were kind of like ambivalent. Okay, yeah, Felix. Okay, now here's an updated Felix. So, I didn't care, didn't think about it, but I would recommend it. So this is a character that goes back to 1919 when you have Australian cartoonist Pat Sullivan, who had eventually made his way to the United States. And at this time, of course, film and animation were sort of in their infancy, and he got involved in animation, and he was part of an animation studio. But we'll skip over the things. Eventually, he did get to found his own animation studio, and the first appearance of Felix, he wasn't called Felix. The first two cartoons, he was known as Master Tom, and he was much more cat-like. He wasn't as amorphosized as he would become. And the very first appearance was 1919's Feline Follies. Then, inexplicably, in the third episode, he's introduced as Felix. There's no real account for where the name change came from. Of course, Felix is associated with Australia, felicitas, and it means like happy and lucky, lucky Australia. Of course, there's the word feline, so you could think happy, lucky cat, So anyway, they thought it fit better, I guess, and they went from there. And then, so these were silent. This is the silent era. So these are silent cartoons, and they made quite a few of them, and they really took off in popularity. Felix started through the early 20s. Like I said, he was very recognized. He was actually at one point the mascot for the New York Yankees, which would be a pretty big deal. I'm trying to see what else we got in here. The Adventures of Felix was the third one, and that's where they finally gave him the name. But throughout the 20s, and that's when the merchandising started. And he was very well known. And back then they would show serials where they would have like they show several cartoons and maybe a newsreel and then maybe a feature-length film. He'd always be part of that. And it wasn't until the latter half of the decade, as sound came in and Disney Studios started to rise with the first sound cartoon, Mickey Mouse's appearance, Steamboat Willie. It made the Felix cartoons feel old-fashioned and antiquated. And Sullivan seemed reluctant to get into sound. And by the time he agreed to do it in 1929, instead of making new cartoons built around the concept of sound, all he did was sort of re-release the old ones with like sound added to them. And you could really tell like the quality was not as good. And this sort of begins to decline. And then he disappears for a couple years before reappearing, I think, in the mid-30s. Just taking a look here, see if there's something I missed out on. Oh, yeah. Also, the comic strip started in 1923. So even, again, before Mickey and those other ones, he's an animated character that would get his own comic strip. And that would run well into the 40s. That would run over 20 years. But by the 30s, a different studio, Van Buren, got hold of it. At this point, I think Sullivan might be dead. Sullivan, it was an interesting character. We don't have time to get into him, but he was an alcoholic. And one of the big things you'll find out about Felix, if you look him up, is like the question of who actually created him. Because Sullivan would just always say he was the sole creator. But there was another man, an American he got involved with, named Otto Mesmer, who only years after Sullivan's death said, no, he had pretty much created him. He wouldn't... So some people don't credit that and say it wasn't fair to him to say that well after Sullivan is dead and can't refute it. But I mean, there's different accounts and you can look them up. There's some interesting stuff on Wikipedia and YouTube you can look into. I would say, based on the evidence I've seen, I'm kind of with Mesmer. It seemed like Sullivan was a less hands-on guy as things got going. It's kind of like the revelation eventually that, like, yes, Walt Disney created Mickey Mouse, but he co-created him with Ub Iwerks. And in a way, Ub Iwerks kind of did all like the more technical stuff, whereas Disney would go on to be more of the face and the business thing. That's kind of more like what Sullivan was like too. And he was an alcoholic and he was tough to work with and people didn't like him. And then after his wife died, he didn't last much longer and died after that, basically drank himself to death. It's very sad. And I mean, he did contribute and he was definitely part of the creation of him. But it seems like the more I read and looked into it, it seemed like Mesmer was really the one that, if he didn't create the character on his own, was really the one that developed the character and made him into what we recognize. And of course, the other thing about a character lasting this long and being around for so long is he's had various reboots and redesigns over the years. Even in the mid-20s, he got revamped a little bit in his design. His earliest appearances, he was very much kind of like an ordinary cat that would sometimes stand on hind legs. Then he became more amorphosized, and then of course more black got added to him, which was Mesmer's idea, just saying, well, you don't have to worry about outlines if he's all black. So things like that. But the 30s, the Van Buren studio had purchased them, but they only lasted another year. So they did a couple cartoons that were very reminiscent of the Disney cartoons of that era, like Silly Symphonies and things like the Merry Melodies and things like that. If you look it up, you can actually, I've watched a couple of those because they're on Tubi. So if anybody's interested, I'd assume you can probably find them on YouTube too. And yeah, they're the first real break, and they're color and sound, and they're the first real break from the character, because they make him more of a wide-eyed, innocent, kind of in the vein of more of a Disney character, more of a funny animal character. They took away some of his edge. Like, he was known again for being a mischievous scamp. He also had some traits, like he had his tail in the 20s cartoons. He could sort of bend his tail into any shape and do things with it, which was part of his character. Another was he had a sort of a famous trademark thing where he didn't have pockets, but he looked like he put his hands in his pockets and he would just sort of stalk back and forth, like deep in thought. That was like a known thing, like that people knew about. Buster Keaton even did homage to it in one of his films. And the other thing is, I think there was a lot of give and take between the Felix character and the Charlie Chaplin character, the little tramp, and that they both seem to take things from each other. And eventually, again, there's a Felix Hollywood cartoon in the 20s where they meet each other, and the tramp accuses him of ripping him off or something like that. So he was a big deal. So things are pretty quiet in the 40s. I think even the paper strip had eventually gone by the wayside, although it lasted a good long time. Don't have time to get into that. What else we got here? So if we skip all the way to 1959, at this point, it's taken over by what is the guy's name? Hold on, I just need to find this person's name that I didn't write down because it is important. But if we eventually get to it, is it Joe Aurelio? Yeah, it's Joe Aurelio. So Joe Aurelio was the co-creator of the newspaper character, the comic character Casper the Friendly Ghost. And eventually he got involved in his own animation studio, and he took over. And this cartoon, and he's the creator of the cartoon, the sound and color cartoon that started in 1959, ran to 1962 for something like, what is it like? I think I had 260 episodes, like a lot of episodes. I mean, they're short. Yeah, 260 episodes. And, we've talked about this before, that era, it's the era of limited animation. So not great looking or anything, but it was fairly popular. And actually a few years later, it'd be fairly popular in Asia. And as early as 1960, it was already getting a Japanese dub. So he actually had a little bit more popularity over there than here at the time. And this was the cartoon that, again, made some sweeping changes. This is where they really overhauled his personality. Now he's kind of like a Mickey clone. His edge and his sarcasm and his mischievousness is gone. And also, instead of the tail thing, they introduce a gimmick of the magic bag, which is featured prominently in this movie. And there we can see it on the front here of the DVD that I have, which was exactly what it says. It's this bag that he can just it turns into anything he wants it to. And they decide to add some characters to, build up the world. So there's this, I don't know if he's just called the Professor. We'll find out because he's in this movie, and his son, and I think that's Poindexter. And the whole thing is they're always after Felix. It's they want to get him and get that bag. That's part of the running thing. And I think they introduced a few more characters. And again, Felix really goes by the wayside during the 60s. By 1971, Aurelio is, at this point, he is the sole owner of the property. Before that, I think there were still people related to Mesmer or something, or Mesmer himself was in there. But by 1971, he'd taken over, and he had some ambitious plans for Felix. He wanted to make a movie, and as we can see, that didn't happen until well into the 80s. And the whole movie thing is another thing, because the idea at the time was Joe Aurelio was supposed to, I think, write and direct it, but by 1985, he died. So his son, Don, took over. And Don, from that point on until only recently, would be the owner and the guy trying to get Felix's name out there and make more stuff. Do I have anything about the movie here? Because the movie itself is its own thing. But Let me jump back here a little bit. I just want to see Otto Mesmer, Dag. Yeah, so he teamed up with European animators, and I think they moved through a couple different studios in Eastern Europe to make Felix the Cat the movie, which is the movie in question that we're going to. And it was going to be planned for a 1987 Thanksgiving release in U.S. theaters. Didn't happen, and it languished for a few years. It eventually got a direct-to-video release in the summer of '91. So not good timing, especially as we said, a lot we talk about is the late 80s giving way to the Disney Renaissance. So by 1991, and we talked about this a lot, we talked about the Don Bluth studio versus Disney. So there was a lot of high quality animation to really overshadow Felix. And that's kind of what, especially since it didn't even get a theatrical release, right? So this came out on video to, it was very quiet. People didn't really notice it or care about it that much. Although apparently it did enough to spark interest a few years later to make another show, which was the show I was talking about in the 90s, The Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat. So just not good timing. 1991, the Disney Renaissance was in full swing. The Bluth Studios produced a lot of really good movies, and again, not a theatrical release. So we have this movie coming out, directed by Hungarian director. Let's get his name here, Tibor Hernadi, and Orlio would Orlilio. Man, I keep saying it wrong, I think, but Don, the son, Don Oriolo. It's Oriolo. That's what it is. It's Don Oriolo. Anyway, he would hold on and he would try to he was involved in that cartoon, although I don't know how much more. And in the early 2000s, he'd envisioned sort of making a trilogy of, I guess, straight to DVD movies. The first one did come out, and it was called Felix the Cat Saves Christmas. It was very kidsy, and the animation was sort of lame. And it didn't do well, and the other two movies never happened. And then by 2014, he finally sold the rights. And as of 2014, the rights belong to DreamWorks Studios, who have done, as far as I know, nothing with it since. But I would like to see something happen because, I don't know, he's an important character. As we said, it's weird. People recognize him at the very least. That's what he's kept. As you said, use the word icon, and that's kind of what it is. He's like less of a famous guy for exactly who he is, but he is an icon. People know who he is. They recognize his likeness. If you say Felix, they know what you're talking about. They know what it is if you show them. I mean, something about him has allowed him to endure, even though he's had entire, huge chunks of time go by where very little has actually come out. And even when a lot of stuff that has come out has been underwhelming, he's never come anywhere close to regaining the fame he had in the 20s. He probably never will. But he's just such an enduring and important part of animation history that I can't help but have a fondness for him. And if you go back and watch some of those old cartoons, including, I don't want to be dismissive of everything, even in the 59, the one that was in 59, has some interesting stuff going on in it. So, I mean, it's all worth checking out. But we get to this movie. Yeah, so I saw this movie on TV in the early 90s on Family Channel, and it's not good. And if you're gonna watch along with us, you're gonna be kind of amazed by how goddamn trippy it is, because it's weird. Because I've talked about how by this point they'd abandoned his more, although they bring it back for that show, his more mischievous side, and he's just sort of a wide-eyed Mickey clone, and you're going to hear it in the voice acting too. He's like, "Hi, I'm Felix." Oh, it's annoying, and yet we're going to get a kind of dark and surrealistic movie out of this. So anyway, I got this on eBay a couple months ago. This never got a North American release. I think this might be Australian because that's where I got it from. Luckily, I happen to have a region-free player, but you don't need one for this because this is a region. The disc itself is region-free, so it should play on all players. I got it for a very reasonable price, so it was worth getting. I also got it not used. I got it sealed and new, which was pretty cool. So it's as bare bones as it gets. The options on the menu are play movie and chapters. That's it. So I'm going to be annoyed and a little hampered here that I can't put subtitles up because I don't want to have my volume up too loud. But I want to be able to follow the plot a little bit. But yeah, he's just I don't know. He's just such an important figure in animation, and he has such a long, vast history. And I've only touched on it. I would encourage people to look it up more on things like Wikipedia. There's some very well done YouTube videos about his history that are very cool and worth watching. But I just thought, yeah, why not do this movie since I haven't seen it in so long and all my memories of it are bad. And it's a short enough movie. It won't kill us. So for me, the first thing that comes up is the start of some logo that is like a lake. So does yours go right into the movie?
Let me double check here.
Yeah. Because I know you're watching that online, and it might skip that stuff. It might just go right into the movie. But mine is some sort of logo that it begins with a lake.
Oh, no, it's starting with a lake.
Okay, so we'll assume that it's the same from there. So we're probably going to do a countdown. We'll do a 3, 2, 1, and then go, and we'll get going on this movie. This movie is not even 80 minutes long. It's short. It can be painful at times, but in a way, that's one of the things that maybe makes it interesting. So if we're all set to go here, we'll do 3, 2, 1, hit play. And I'm sure I'll have to adjust my volume as we go here. This also has like weird songs like randomly thrown into it. It's weird because okay, that makes sense.
Sure.
Like musicals were popular in animation at the time, but it doesn't exactly play that entirely. So Felix the Cat Creations Inc. So I guess that's what Don Aurelio had founded. You can see there's his name, Don Aurelio. So poor Joe, who had kept the character alive from the 50s into the 80s, he had passed away in 85. So here, I remember this. Here's some computer animation for you, which I guess is kind of impressive given it's like 1986.
Yeah.
So Felix is directly addressing the audience here. Yeah, so that voice is already really grating, so I'm really looking forward to hearing this voice for 80 minutes. Oh, that's also true. Yeah, so I also remember hear that laugh. He does have one moment where he actually reveals a really sick sense of humor, which is weird because it goes totally against everything else I said about how the character can change. But we'll get there when we get there. I remember that too.
Well, like you, I first saw this on the Disney Channel, which is Canada's is the Family Channel, right?
Yeah.
No, Felix Cat the movie. There's the
we're pretty well synced
title
up,
card.
Man. Yeah, we're synced up quite well.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah. So Felix is actually going to cross over into another dimension in this movie, and this is where we're starting. We're starting in some other fantasy dimension with a princess whose kingdom is in trouble.
And what was with these blonde, almost fairy-looking they like all look the same in this era of cartoons? These fairy princess.
Yeah, very bland. Cartoon. Not much expression on their face. If you ever see The Last Unicorn from '82, the princess in that looks kind of like that. That's one that's remembered really fondly, and I remember fondly watching it and like not liking it at all. But maybe I was just a little too young for it because it came out in like '82. But there's a whole generation that like thinks of The Last Unicorn as like this classic, and I don't think it holds up at all. And again, maybe it's unfair because you can compare it to like Disney movies and Booth Studio movies, but I don't know. So this is European animation done in the style of classic American. So make of that what you will. You can already see it. It's kind of a hodgepodge as we go forward. So look at this Duke. So I think this is like her uncle. Like there's a whole plot where like she's supposed to be queen after her father died, but instead her uncle has usurped her and taken over the kingdom, and he's become this crazy warlord. He's called the Duke of Zil. I mean, look at this.
Did you say this animation was like it had maybe a main studio in Europe somewhere, but it was passed on to like sub?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think it involved at least 3 different studios where they like moved it.
Yeah.
Where production moved a few times. I mean, like look how they can't stay still for one thing. These characters. Like, look at that repeated movement on the... Yeah, so there's still... this was a movie that had some kind of budget compared to that. You know, you still see some of these limited animation tricks. You're going to see repeated movements and things. Like, really, honestly, I feel like a lot of the gestures and movements don't match up with, like, the dialogue that's being said. It doesn't seem to fit, but...
Not at all. It's...
Like, he looked more like he was happy about what they were talking about instead of having, like, a serious conversation. So she has to get out before, I guess, the Duke's forces kidnap her or whatever.
I don't remember much about this. Yeah.
Right,
I don't remember much about
weird
this, but
robot
awful.
Soldiers. Yeah. So he's got like a bunch of weird robot soldiers that look like they're from like Doctor Who. Oh,
Yeah,
luckily
some of
we've
that
got like
doesn't
an
look so
amusement
bad.
park ride here. No, there's some moments of some very startlingly good animation in here, in spots. The one thing I'll give this movie is like it's creative. I don't necessarily mean it's creative in a good way, but it's creative.
Well, no, because like I think we were talking earlier as well. We watched it, but don't really remember much about it, except
Yeah.
that it just sucked.
I mean, this is just a
And
crazy intro when you remember this is a Felix the Cat movie. Because instead we have this like fantasy world with normal looking humans and all of this like sci-fi fantasy stuff going on. It's like, how the fuck does Felix the Cat fit into this? So I guess this is why this reminds me a little bit of Ralph Bakshi's Wizards, is that it gets a fantasy world, but they really push like technology. As you can see, there's like a robot army, there's like machines, so it's like kind of like a swords and sorcery backdrop, but with a lot of high technology mixed in. I mean, that's been done before, but it looks especially clumsy here. So here's pumped up Mysterio. That's the Duke of Zill.
yeah. But I mean, these characters, their
Strobe-like.
animation themselves are worse than a Saturday Morning or Ralph Bashki.
Mhm. So yeah, so her tear is somehow going to reach Felix.
Golden Tear.
Her tear is gonna like go through the machine and cross dimensions, I guess. Very efficient, boarding up the wall. But yeah, she's gonna send like a telepathic message across this machine, across dimensions to Felix through her tear. So okay, fine. In a second, yeah, now we're going to get to like Felix's world, and it's going to be like, oh, I'm trying to get away from the scientist and use my normal zany antics. They're after my bag. That's the intro we're going to get here. So there's the bag. So yeah, I don't even remember how exactly this works, but it's like a telepathic message, I guess. There you go. Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
Uh-huh.
So in this one, Felix has like the big round feet that makes him look like Astro Boy. Like I keep expecting like him to just fly with like rockets coming out of his feet. I've never liked this design with the really round feet. That's all I can think. I think it's some sort of Astro Boy ripoff. Yeah, so this is about the level of slapstick humor you can expect all throughout the movie. Also, in the tradition of a lot of Western movies that continues now, but it was especially then, is like it never shuts up. Like there's no quiet moments in a movie like this. Like it's almost like they can never let like more than a few seconds go by without some sort of sound or line of dialogue. So there's a lot of extraneous dialogue in this that adds nothing. You're gonna hear like Felix just yell a bunch of extra stuff a lot through this movie and add comments that aren't needed, because it's still held today, because you'll see it a lot if you see English dubs of animes. You'll often find out they'll have extra dialogue that wasn't in the original, because like the Western people were just like, oh, we can't have any silence here. Add some extra lines. We're gonna lose the audience. So this is a very noisy movie, also, which is one of the things that makes it really annoying, because they feel like it needs to rely on a lot of movement and noise. So that's what it's going to be.
I was thinking maybe the noise was covering up the jerky movements.
Maybe that's part of it. Distract from that. Right. So this is a callback, a pretty old callback. I mean, I guess any kid watching this in the 90s, like 91, isn't going to know this unless they somehow had access to the show from the 50s, because that's where these characters are from. And that was the running thing here. The professor and I guess his son or nephew Poindexter are just always trying to catch Felix so they can take the bag from him. Now watch this bit. Do you remember this bit with the foxes?
No.
Okay, wait for it. The foxes are going to come back. Okay, I know those foxes just ran by. It's like, okay, there's some foxes, but there's going to be a strange amount of focus on the foxes in a little bit, and it's going to serve no purpose at all. Oh, thank you. There, they just reiterated. I've always wanted that bag. Here's our chance to get the bag. So the Fox moment must be. Here we go. And suddenly there's a song. Out of nowhere. This is not further the plot. This has nothing to do with what's going to happen later. We just get a little song about the foxes.
This is something. Yeah, I don't even remember the old Felix cartoons, being rerun in the 80s or 90s, where they ran a lot of other old stuff.
Yeah. And that's it. So we just had that little 30-second musical diversion that served no purpose whatsoever. So get used to that, because this movie's full of a lot of random shit like that. Yeah, that's what I mean. Felix was so dormant, that I don't think. Because, I know that show, I said it ran from 59 to 62. I know in the years, directly after that, it was in syndication for a while. By the time you get to the 80s, no way. By the time you get to the 80s, there hasn't been Felix anywhere. There. Now it's turned into some sort of jetpack for him.
But again, we somehow knew who he was. I don't know. Was it the Thanksgiving Day parade balloon? Was there still every year?
That's another one of his accomplishments. He is the first big balloon character from the Macy's Day Parade.
That's right.
It's very underwhelming if you look it up, because it's not that big. It's this big. It's not giant, but he's the original. That's another one of his claims to fame, is he was the first of all. Yeah, I hate that laugh. He'll say little jokes to himself and then just laugh at them. Here, watch this. See, that is kind of sick, isn't it? He's laughing at the skull. He says, "You could use a Big Mac." Look at him, Felix. Jesus, that's dark.
It's a good-looking skull, though.
I know.
Skilling.
I'm just a little surprised, because usually, tone-wise, they're going for the innocent, wide-eyed, happy Felix. Not the twisted, more jerky Felix. But he just has this moment where he's like, "You could use a Big Mac." I'm laughing at a skull. Man, see, I already forgot that it took him so long to catch up to the damn thing. He's still chasing after the tear, just flying around. Now they're underground in some sort of mine. Just never shut up, do you, Felix? Because you also see, as you can see, there's a lot of dialogue where it's clear he's not, they didn't animate him talking. But then there's dialogue over it anyway, because they just feel like he can never shut up. He has to always be talking and giving a running commentary, which is supposed to be our job.
Yeah.
So their dimension has a corresponding machine, I guess. Oh no, he's already crossed over somehow. He's crossed over.
Yeah, he's over.
It wasn't really clear how that happened, was it?
No.
They don't show him going through a gateway or a tunnel or any the only reason I know he's through is because I recognize the room. Because at first I thought, oh, they have a machine of their own in their dimension, but no, that's the original.
Is it just like a flash?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, very fast. But there. He's crossed over. He's in the fantasy world now. 1 second he was in his world, now he's in here. Gosh. If you're having trouble lifting it, just turn it into something else.
Now, I take it at least the earliest versions of this character have entered public domain now in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I really don't know how that works. One of the things, it seems like any time the copyright might have, reverted, somebody did something with it. So as far as I know, you can't do anything now because DreamWorks owns it. So I don't know how that works as far as back catalog goes. Does that mean DreamWorks has access to the old stuff? I don't know.
They're really only figuring it out now because Steamboat Willie will become public domain within less than a year now.
Right. Mickey's in all these decades, Disney's been fighting against that because they don't want that to happen. Right. They're the number one opposition to that. They don't want that to happen. So their whole reason it kept getting pushed back and delayed, this whole
I don't think they can do it any longer, though.
No.
But they do have a trademark on the character, which that'll start getting tricky in law because that's
Right.
forever.
Yeah, you really wouldn't want
as
to
long
take
as
on
it's
Disney
being
in these
used.
things. Felix the catfish.
Felix the catfish.
And these are just the beginning of horrific nightmare creatures we're going to see in this. I'll give them credit. Like, it's a different dimension, so we might as well just pull out all the stops for the weirdness of the creatures in this world. Because we haven't seen anything yet.
Yeah, why not?
Some pretty poor water animation.
I
mean, we can tell it's water, but we've seen so much better since.
I was gonna say I've seen worse though too.
True.
Maybe not much, but
I mean, at least I remember put some bubbles in. Like, here's some bubbles, so they're underwater, not just flying through space. Just keep talking, Felix. Hello, Jamie. Thank you for joining us for this odd movie.
Hello.
I mean, this
My
movie
screen's not on the
is
chat
like
right
79.
now.
It's 79 minutes long, and like it's still so full of like filler like this. No, more witty remarks. You only did 3 in a row there. I thought you'd have more. I went from 2 fishies for me and close to no cigar, and then finally. But yeah, I guess I'll give credit to like how dark and twisted this world is. Takes them half a second to meet somebody. A hillbilly with a rifle.
It's a prospector.
Pretty much. Yeah, see, I already misremember this because I thought like he talked to the drop and it got him to cross dimensions. And this, he's already crossed dimensions and he's still following it, for God's sake. Well, Felix, we were talking about his weird position of fame. He is one of the most famous cats, and yet he's still kind of unknown in a way. Like, people only vaguely know him. He's been around, people recognize him, people know him, but it's very hard to like say too much about him or say exactly what they've seen of him. So he's an icon. He's over 100 years old. He predates Mickey Mouse, and yet he's hasn't been popular in 100 years. The 20s was really when he was at his most popular by far, and he was soon overtaken by Mickey Mouse, and just from then on, you know, where over the decades
Garfield
where you have, yeah,
is probably more popular.
Yeah, Garfield's definitely way more popular, and I would say the better character too. But Felix has his moments and his place in history. But yeah, see, you have characters like Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny that have managed to like. I don't think they've changed too much but they've done enough to sort of stay relevant, whereas Felix really hasn't. Oh, what is even going on?
Well, it also doesn't have a theme park and all these other.
Yeah, he was the original character to have like merchandising, but again, he got and that's the other thing. I think that's more what people know him for now than like any sort of like television or movie appearances. It's like people like his merchandise remains popular. He's a popular image. In fact, I kind of wish I had some Felix merchandise. And of course, I think that clock is iconic. I really like the Felix clock. You know, it's his face. It's been around since like the 20s, and I would like that clock. I think it's cool. Oh, he's told him he's looking for some sort of princess or something. I don't know. Oh, they're already being spied on. Are we in New Jersey? Oh, I love this edgy comedy they've got going on. First the McDonald's reference, and now New Jersey. Yeah, this crazy wasteland. It is very dark. This wasteland overrun by a cruel tyrant and his robot army. Very post-apocalyptic. Dystopian. Of course, we think of those when we think of Felix the cat. Who wouldn't? That backfired. Uh-oh. Spy robot. That was a weird cut.
Yeah.
Spy robots are coming up on them, and then suddenly, oh, we go back to the original. Yeah, because he said, did these guys follow him through? Maybe they figured out a way to follow him through. I can't remember. I only remember them at the beginning. I don't remember. But apparently they play a further role in this movie. This Poindexter character, they did put him in the 90s cartoon. Yeah, so they've already figured out that he's cross dimensions. Okay, he's been captured, yeah. Off screen. That's kind of weird. This must be how he winds up at that circus. Because that's like the main thing of the movie I remember. So he winds up sort of a prisoner in this bizarre freak show circus. Yeah, they're game. They're down to follow him. They really want that bag. Okay, so it's his nephew. The professor's nephew is Poindexter. Legs and a wheel. That's innovative. Usually it's one or the other. Yeah, so this is mostly what I remember about the movies. Is all this really ugly imagery of this place. It's all really ugly and unpleasant. And I'm sure, I guess that's the point, but still, I don't know if that's really what you want to see in a Felix movie. Yeah, this is what I remember best. This is like on his cane. Yeah, that's what it is. This guy. This is what I remember most. Oh, did this guy betray Felix? I think he brought him to him. You're muted, by the way. If you were saying something.
No, I was just double checking some of the voices. This.
Oh, okay. Not anybody I really recognize, I don't think.
Yeah, not much. The Poindexter, I think she did a lot of cartoon voices that are recognizable.
Let's look up this movie here. Oh, okay, so this guy was never on Felix's side at the beginning. He brought him here on purpose and stole the bag. What a jerk. He only saved Felix from that swamp creature just to get him here. All right, so one thing I did forget is like the last Felix thing besides that movie I said was there was an anime called Baby Felix that came out in 2000, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's just like taking the characters and doing like baby versions of them. Well, that was in Japan, obviously. But yeah, Alice Payton, I guess is who you were talking about. But yeah, there's not even a credit for the princess, Maureen O'Connell. Don Oriolo did a voice of a creature, apparently. But yeah, I guess the fact that there's some songs in here. That's the fact that Don Oriolo, unlike his father, came from a musical background. Like Joe was the animator guy, Don hadn't been, and then he just sort of inherited Felix's from that. So he was a musician. So maybe that's why there's some music in this, because that was his background.
Yeah, it is clearly just stuck in there to be a animated musical like your Disney's and even Don Bluth at times.
Although it doesn't really seem to have any fully realized songs. They're just sort of like little snippets.
No, they don't move the story along. They don't. Yeah.
So they've crossed over just by going through a door. That seems to be all they did. I think he wants to kill you.
I'm still here. Hold on.
There's not even anything on that screen. Yeah. I knew I wasn't, you're not expecting super detailed animation, but shrink ray, that's handy. Wow, he even throws a life preserver to the poor thing. That's pretty nice. Give that thing a song. I mean, you gave it to a couple of random foxes.
What kind of song, though?
I can't remember what the rest of the song sound like. Great dialogue there. All right, back to Evil Circus. Are you guys going to give him a slave name? See, shots like that don't make any sense. They just cut back to the guy and he's like standing on the robot. Back to him again. Oh, Jesus, that's annoying. Please show him bouncing some more. Yeah, great. Fuck, that's stupid. He just negated the magic of the bag, like with his weird little creature there. It was a sword until he touched it. Oh well. Nothing gets Felix down. Oh, it's another random musical interlude. Oh, I remember these stupid things.
What
mice
are
with weird? Like, they're like mice with like slug bodies.
Yeah.
And I remember there's a lot of focus on them, so that's something else for us to enjoy. Mizzards. Oh, so they're mice and lizards. I get it.
Okay.
Mizzards. Very clever, Felix. Right. So probably wasn't clear to this point what it is. I just always remembered it's like a weird circus in the land of Oriana. Here. You guys don't have the actual Duke. This is the worst part of the movie, possibly.
The cat band?
This song about this propaganda song about the Duke of Zil.
Mysterio.
Here we go. The Who is the Boss. So it's like this weird propaganda song to keep everybody in place. This is it.
Well, at least it kind of goes along with the movie. for once.
It does. It's just awful. That's all. And shows they all love it. Yeah, we're slaves. We love the Duke. He's the boss. I don't think you're expecting sort of that soft poppy sound either.
No.
Why is there water there? I don't know.
So you can splash to the beat.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I remember most, is this part. Them all singing along the Duke of Zill propaganda song. All these horrible creatures.
I don't remember any of this.
Oh, this is what I remembered best of the movie. Is this whole circus thing and this dumb song. The band seemed to be all cats. You can see they're prisoners.
Honestly, I really probably only remember Felix and the princess. And that's just imagery in my head.
Again, well, there was a lot of focus on these mizzards. Maybe they help them escape. I don't know.
I'm sure I even tuned out on when it was playing on the Disney.
Oh yeah,
channel.
And now we just get shots of like her wherever she is. Like, can she hear the song? She's like, ah. Is she a prisoner too? I thought she got away. Does the Duke have her? The Duke must have her. Okay, what exactly do you want from Felix? He already took his bag. And why did they put him here? No idea. Princess has her own wanted posters.
Oh, I thought they were magazines.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. Possibly.
No, you were probably right.
Jess is gone, Orc. You'll never see her.
Wait,
I know that's the only reason you tuned in, Orc. So they're the act. Wow, riveting.
I'm here, guys. I just
crappy things.
I got the movie up on my screen, so I'm really not seeing much of the chat.
It's not that active.
And Ben.
Yeah, see, he's elite. I mean, that's a fair statement. Felix might not be that well known anymore, but he still can hang with the big boys. Although it's mostly just on recognition. It's like people know him, they just don't know much about him. But they know him. He's definitely a thing that exists. Oh, it's so painful. Watching these dumb things do their vaudeville act. I mean, is this supposed to be like a tribute to the early silent days of Felix's history? I don't know. All I know is it sucks and it's boring.
Is it even... Are they even that clever with it to even consider it that?
Probably, yeah. I'm giving them more credit than probably.
I think you might be. Now, if Felix was doing some sort of vaudevillian dance, I'd believe it, but
yeah,
no.
These two. This is quite the circus place. First, you do your propaganda song where you sing about the Overlord, and then you get to watch these things. They actually enjoy it, though. They don't look like the most intelligent audience.
No, but...
Wow, they can teleport. That is a good trick. It was more than teleporting. It's like they multiplied because apparently that guy was always on the ground for it. So.
I'm just not sure who even this movie. Who would this movie appeal to?
I love the fact that Felix had been out of the public eye for like almost like 20 years, and this was their idea of like bringing him back. I'm like, I get putting him in a movie, but why this bizarre fantasy cyber mashup? I don't know. It's just so weird. He's up next. Like, what do they expect him to do? They just captured him. They don't know anything about him. They're like, you're going to be on our show. You're on the bill, so you better be a naturally gifted performer.
Maybe that we do.
Ladies and gentlemen, a random cat. Oh, yay. He's like, this cat. Oh, people are supposed to be in this world of freaks and monsters and mutants. People are supposed to be impressed by a talking cat. This is blowing my mind. In this world where everything talks, he can talk also. Don't give him the bag. This must be how he escapes. They're just going to give him the bag? That's very stupid.
Yeah, punching.
Oh, Felix is going to do some stand-up. Uh-oh. Shouldn't badmouth Zill. None of that was animated.
Nope.
That dialogue. I mean, their reaction is correct. This is some terrible stand-up. Here's your bag that you can use to escape. Don't mind if I do. I mean, why don't you just use it to escape? He's like, these people paid for a show. I better give them something first. Even though they did just throw a bunch of stuff at me. Tire.
Punch.
More terrible puns, please. Is this part of the show, Felix? He doesn't know.
Ben Grimm's got an idea of putting Felix and Fritz, the cat, in a crossover.
I mean,
watch
certain
it.
versions of Felix would work for that. Not this crappy version, but like the 90s version would work. Because he's like a wisecracking kind of scamp. I mean, they're trying to make him be wisecracking. All his jokes are terrible. As I said, the jokes are actually pretty good on the 90s show. I recommend it. Particularly the second season, where they changed voice actors for the second season. I don't remember who voiced him the first, but in the second, they got the guy that was on Tiny Toon Adventures. He was Buster. He does kind of a similar voice. It actually works really well.
I can see how that could work almost.
Yeah, you should check it out. There's some pretty decent episodes on there. They are very random and weird and surreal, which is kind of the point. So he didn't use it to escape. You are dumb, Felix.
Yeah.
He's right. Your jokes suck. I hope you have plenty of ketchup. What the fuck does... Zill gave the princess to him? That was a terrible idea. I thought she was like a super important political prisoner. And he's just like, I'll just give it to the circus guy. That's how much I value her. I thought she'd be like a high value hostage or whatever. Or I guess she wouldn't be a hostage. She was literally the only one left because the whole thing is her father, who was the king, is dead. So I guess he's thinking, this is the best way to humiliate the princess. Is I'll say, you don't matter anymore. I'll throw you in a 2-bit freak show. So she's going to dance in a bubble. There's another one of those examples where like you have like a female character dancing, and the whole point is supposed to be like the audience is just entranced and amazed, but like watching it, it just doesn't look like anything. But the audience is just gonna love this. Wow, we get some text there. Meanwhile, there's her I don't know what that is. Nurse, secretary. So does that mean he's with Zill, or is it just Zill's making? I don't know. It's not important, is it? He doesn't seem upset. This is the best way to relish your revenge, is to watch her dance in a circus. You know, red armbands would be intimidating if they weren't like super thin and just look like he's wearing ribbons. It kind of detracts from his macho look. No, they didn't really show the audience reaction at all. I thought they were going to show like the audience being like, "Whoa, amazing!" So we're just past the. We're coming up to about 40 minutes and 30 seconds on this movie.
Little over half over.
Yep. Felix is not mad at this guy for leading him into a trap. Probably because he realizes he's too stupid and there's no point in being angry at such a stupid individual. I like how the Duke takes over the world, and he likes his title as the Duke so much he just keeps it. Like, you know, you could be king now. You've deposed the princess. Duke just sounds better. I respect that. Why can't a Duke be the ruler? Okay, fair enough. Now let's leave him all alone, unsupervised. Oh, maybe the robots stay with him. Yep, okay, the robots got him. Welcome to Shit World. I mean, I get it. It's supposed to be a crap sack world, but I'm kind of surprised how hard they go on it, considering what kind of movie this is. These two must figure some way in the plot. So eventually they must do something that matters. Another split focus. They do a lot of things like that, where a character is talking and then they just show some background action for no reason. Like this thing drinking and eating a bottle. Okay. Felix seems to really enjoy his imprisonment. It's like, this is a really comfortable wooden cot. It's not all bad. Oh, they talk too. Of course they do. They become pretty nihilistic. I guess I get it. They've been imprisoned for a long time. Just kill us and get it over with. Well, we're very small, so. Holes.
Holes. The outside world are made of steel.
Well, at least they do quick work. Wow, they didn't even measure them. That's pretty impressive. They're good at guesstimating. We never got to see these acts. Please riff some more, Felix. You're just so...
Yeah.
Oh my god. He's got like 3 comments for everything he sees.
Yeah.
And they're all lame as hell. I mean, I get it. It's a Felix the Cat movie, I guess, with kids in mind. But man, the bar is low for as far as the writing goes. Just have Felix say any old stupid thing that comes to mind, and that'll be good enough.
But I'm not even sure what age group would be even entertained by this.
That's what I mean. I was like, 8 or 9 years old watching this, and I was not entertained. I was sort of fascinated by how crappy it was. That's really what kept me watching. Even at that age, I recognized this as crap. And that's really why I watched it. There were a few things like that I watched that way at that time. There was a really horrible, low-budget shit cartoon that came on Family Channel also called Sharky and George, which was about, like, fish who were, like, detectives. And it's one of the worst things I've ever seen. But I watched multiple episodes of it because I was fascinated by how horrifically bad it was.
I don't remember that.
It's the crappiest animated show you'll ever see. Terribly written. It had a really annoying, obnoxious theme song. It went, Sharky and George, the crime busters of the sea. Do-do-do-do-do. Sharky and George, clear up any mystery.
It sounds awful.
It's so much more awful. I'm sure you can probably find at least clips of it somewhere. It was so cheap and terrible. I remember one episode was like focused on like the equivalent of like an airplane, which doesn't make sense because they're underwater. And at one point, characters were worried about falling off a cliff, which again doesn't make sense underwater. Like they didn't even try to like incorporate into the fact that we're all fish and we're underwater.
Yeah.
But yeah, Sharky was like a shark, and his sidekick was a smaller fish called George, and they were like PIs. And I guess they fought crime. I don't know. I can't remember anything beyond that except just how the worst of the worst was one called Ovid Video. You ever hear about that? About this bizarre group of amorphosized animals that seem to be living somewhere down like Australia, New Zealand way. I mean, it just had this oppressive, depressing atmosphere that just made me like want to kill myself. That made me kind of fascinated to watch it. Yeah, Ovid, he was like some sort of weird bird thing. I don't know. But yeah, it was called Ovid Video. Like his name was Video backwards. So it was called Ovid Video, and it was awful. And I knew that then, and I kind of watched out of a fascination for just how terrible it was. Like, it literally made me feel bad. Like, I felt bad about life watching it. I was like, this is so, And that was kind of a little bit, not quite as bad for this movie. I was just sort of fascinated by how crappy it was. Oh, look at this. We're getting like a flashback to how the world got this way. Look how that guy has the exact same animation as the little sidekick guy there. They use the exact same facial animation for it. We're supposed to buy that's who became Zill. Sort of like a Doctor Doom situation. Just figured in an explosion. There's the Nice King. Oh, so we're pretty late in the movie to be introducing this MacGuffin book.
Almost makes it interesting.
I like how she had like a nice little scrapbook of a photo there of like the Duke of Zill were walking around. Bow before me, you pathetic freaks. I rule this junk heap. Well, they didn't say robots. They literally are called cylinders and cubes. That's imaginative. Rewarded. What kind of rewards do these cylinders want? Yeah, I love Family Channel and I watched a lot of good stuff on it, but it also had some bizarrely awful stuff. I don't know if OV Video was part of that. I know that Sharky and George was. OV Video might have been a different channel. It might have been one of the things I saw on ITV. ITV was this channel that came out of Alberta, and that's actually that's what the Disney Afternoon aired on for me when I watched, the Disney Afternoon stuff.
Okay.
All that good stuff. That actually aired on ITV. Which was like a channel out of Edmonton or something. I'm going to look up a Flashback Entertainment and see if they still exist. Because, for those that don't know, it says that this disc was put out by something called Flashback Entertainment. And here it's like other titles available from Flashback Entertainment. I don't recognize a single one. I have no idea what any of these movies are. Don't know the title, don't know the thing. It's just like, they must specialize in obscure crap. So I'm going to see if that actually still exists. Let's see if we can go to... Will this yield any result? No, it doesn't exist anymore. It redirects me to something called Recall TV. Which I can see how it's related because it has, like, again, it shows all these TV shows and movies that I've never heard of. So perhaps this is what Flashback Entertainment morphed into. RecallTV.com. Yeah, if you want to look up things that you've never fucking heard of, it's on here. Ooh, there's a Rutger Hauer movie called Beyond Justice. Yeah, that sounds good. That's about the level of quality you can expect from them, and this movie falls right into it. Although at least it's unique for being animated. I never can see anything else animated there. Oh wow, Felix, they even made a new poster for him and everything. It's become quite a draw. I like how you can pay with insects. There's no explanation. People just pay with random garbage. They're raking in so much money that they just take anything, I guess. And you have to enter through a hole in the floor? Man, like... Oh, they've gone incognito. Very clever. Oh, another character that just keeps going. Fuck. That's, again, one of the lazier tropes you'll see in, like, a lot of cartoons for kids. Like, have the character that's just talks really fast and says a lot of nothing. In Transformers, that was Blur. Like, Blur is really fast, so he talks fast, but we can't actually come up with dialogue of him speaking fast, so he'll just say a lot of nothing in a span of a few seconds. And he'll just, like, repeat things. God, I hated listening to Blur. I mean, I love Transformers, and I understand when you had a cast that was so big and kept changing, the only way to really differentiate them was to, like, try to do something with the way they talked. But they had Blur. They had 3 characters that spoke in rhyme. Now, to be fair, Jazz only spoke in rhyme sometimes, and Blaster only spoke in rhyme sometimes. They just do whatever once in a while. And then you had Wheelie, who only spoke in rhyme, and you wanted to kill yourself. I mean, so... I'm aware of all the cheap things you do to make a character memorable in a cartoon if they only have a bit of screen time. And the one where they're like a motor mouth and just blab out a bunch of nonsense in a few seconds, that's one of the worst. Felix, I'm a little disappointed at your lack of progress here. I thought you'd have escaped by now in this fairly short movie. This must be where he escapes. Although I have no idea what the plan is. I might have talked through it.
Mm-hmm.
The Cat Band. Hey, what did he tell you about the jokes, Felix? Knock off the jokes. They couldn't animate him falling. They had to cut away. You made stilts and fell off. You're a star. Wow, he's become pretty amiable in a short amount of time. Before, he wouldn't even let him near the princess. He's like, yeah, now you can perform together. What? What does that mean? I don't believe I said that. Of all the lame, cliched things you said, you're worried that you said just watch for my signal? I'm sorry, Felix, but you passed the cliche Event Horizon a long time ago.
Yeah.
It didn't all end with just look for my signal. Ooh, a saxophone.
I think I'd rather watch the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, man. I'm not sure what channel that's on, but I did that with Ryan and Jay and possibly somebody else, like Christmas before last.
Yeah, I watched that. It's like on the Region Free Patreon or something.
Yeah, I think it's the only thing I ever did for Region Free. Was I was part of that broadcast. Because I didn't have anything better to do. Bubble power. I love it.
Ryan and Ryho had never seen it, right?
Yeah, but he provided the link. He'd found a place that had the thing. Because I'd never seen it all together. Like, I'd seen it, but I had to piece it together. Like, I'd never seen it all in one part. Well, you fucking blew it. This sequence is just... Whoa, Zill just did a pratfall. They're really undoing how he's supposed to be this intimidating bad guy. He just, like, fell on his face and got his cape over his head. This is embarrassing. He needs them to, like, lift him up with a crane. And that's very undignified for your big bad. Why? Why is she so important? This is one tall circus tent. What is it, like 50 stories? They've been going up for a while. Oh.
Slow bubbles, man.
This is true. Slow bubble. She's got a magic bag bubble, so it should have more integrity. I wanted him to fall to his death. But considering this is a movie where they threw a life preserver to a random monster, I guess no one's going to die. It's probably not in the cards. Well, Felix, your incredibly unplanned plan of bubbles somehow worked out. All right, guy that betrayed me and put me in this situation to begin with, you can team up with us. What? What the hell is he saying? Zardy? Okay, I got that part. Seal off all escape routes. Before that, I couldn't make out anything he said. See, a red armband would be good, but you've got a little dainty red ribbon on your arm.
Yeah.
Not a good
tied
look
in
for
a
the
bow.
big bad. Yeah. Like, we don't want to make him look too much like a fascist, so give him a little festive.
Fascist? How about fabulous?
Can't he be both?
Okay, I'm getting as bad as
Oh, I
Felix.
forgot about this. Yes, you are. I don't blame you. Anybody's brain, we're definitely getting dumber watching this. It's gonna take a few days for me to regain my brevity of wit.
Yeah. I was gonna say this at the end of the movie, but
bland puns.
yeah, I don't think I'd ever watch this again.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't think I'd ever watch this again.
Oh, fuck, did I leap up there? Yeah. Now, hopefully, one of us is still on air. It shows me that Jess is out, but I could be wrong. I never know how to. It's probably me. In which case, hopefully, Jess is carrying. Oh, fuck, come on. I am connected, you idiots. Ugh. I am plugged in, and it still happens. It's irritating. So I assume that was mostly me having flipped out. Oh, you're muted.
I think that time it was you, but I was thinking it was me because 1 minute I'm fine and the next I'm breaking up.
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't happen under these conditions. By the way, we're coming up to an hour and 2 minutes. I was wondering how much longer this torture must go on.
Yeah, it feels like 2 hours.
Cylinders. Oh, they got cool robot horses with lamp heads. Yeah.
This could have been a 45-minute movie, and it'd still probably be a bit too long.
Yeah. Aren't those things still literally right behind you? Why? We can camp here.
Well, it's gonna be dark.
Oh, they teamed up with those guys. I missed that part. He ran into the professor in Poindexter. I missed that. These must be their machines. What are they doing? Ooh, pretty violent. Again, it was off screen. What did it do? It tore a hole in the cave? I don't know. Some stuff it was this is too hard to animate, so we will not actually show it. That's kind of
show the aftermath.
Face. I mean, they even did that with weird things, simple things. It's here's Felix up on stilts, and here he is on the ground. We won't actually show him falling. For Christ's sake. Oh, good. Some hair puns. I don't remember this at all. Even as a kid, this must be where I completely tuned out. So I don't remember any of this crap about going through a hair forest. Man, whatever he's got in those suitcases is really important to him. Because he's been carrying them the whole movie. The professor. Maybe they've even shown him using it. I don't know. I'll tune out here. Oh, okay. I do remember these things. Okay. I do remember these things. Again, a weird way to frame the action just to intense close-up on Felix. You think you would pull back for that? Those things are pretty nightmarish, I have to say. See you in hell, Prospector. I mean, I'd abandon him too. I'm just a little surprised they are. Yeah, it's this thing, yeah. Here's some nightmare fuel that I was talking about that I couldn't quite pinpoint and remember. Here's some of it. This thing with the flying heads. Spears. It was just also unpleasant.
It is, but at least brings something to it.
Well, why are they trying to hit their own head? They're throwing spears at their own heads. These things are completely insane. Snake belt.
Hello, Mrs. Channel, Amanda.
Oh, they're fighting over the hats. That's what it is. They are fighting over the hats. So Felix had the idea to give them a bunch of hats. Okay, at least I finally pieced together what the fuck was going on there. I was like, why are they throwing spears at each other? It's because they were jealous of the hat. So Felix gave them a bunch of hats to distract them. Okay. It's not good, but at least I understand it now. There's like 45 seconds there of just complete confusion.
And shout out Daniel Shine.
Dan Cat, you land on your feet, right? Hey, Dan. Wow, that was weird how they showed the friction on his ass there.
Huh.
All right. They've already had trouble with some cylinders. Now it's time to deal with cubes. The thought process in this movie is like baffling. The bad guys will have an evil army of cylinders and cubes. Nothing can be more intimidating. Ooh, sounds like my Sharona.
Yeah.
That drum beat there. Do 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 do. Okay, fine. So you're going after the book, I guess, because there's something about a book that Zill wants. So they're trying to get it first. I don't know. Lost this plot. No, she screamed before that happened. She's got some sort of spider sense going on. Finally, something that's not completely grotesque to look at. As well as actually kind of neat. As briefly as it appears. Okay, they're sneaking into the palace. They took a secret way into the palace. I get it. Okay. Those cylinder things remind me of the robots in the black hole. Which is a film that Jay and I covered quite a long time ago, which was Disney's first attempt at a PG movie, a live action PG movie, very much a Star Wars ripoff. That did not pan out. But again, because of Family Channel, I watched and have strong memories of. While it was like a big failure for Disney. I even have one of like the golden books about it that focuses on the.
Which one was that?
I like that. How he had dialogue and never actually opened his mouth.
What Disney movie was that you were just talking about? Hey, nobody's hiding my snack shine.
Crap, it's breaking up on me again.
Yeah, can you hear me, Cole? I don't think he can hear me.
Shit.
And no, it
Sorry, I
wouldn't be
blipped out. I missed
hilarious.
whatever you said.
Oh, I was what was the Disney movie you were talking about?
Oh, the black hole.
Yeah, okay.
The cylinder things remind me of some of the robots in the black hole, which Jay and I did do for we discussed Bach Dimension a few years ago.
I don't know if I saw that commentary, and I usually watch those.
It's an older one. It's from a few years ago. It's interesting that like both of like Disney's ambitious movies where they tried to do something different and do PG are both the black. There's the black hole and the black cauldron, and we did both of them. Black hole live action, black cauldron animated.
Well, we all know how the Black Cauldron turned out.
Yeah, the black hole was a similar kind of failure, but it was on Family Channel just like this in the early '90s, so I watched it. Including there was a television special about it that aired that I watched called Major Effects. That was all about how Disney used special effects to their movies throughout the years. It was really good. Okay, he's got the book. All is lost now. Oh, it's one of those ones where look, oh, the book says truth, love, and wisdom. What is this bullshit? This movie has the same meaning as that song One Tin Soldier. I was familiar with the song. Peace on Earth was all it said.
Peace on earth.
That was by the original cast. Mm-hmm. That's all I needed to know that is the famous duet of Bing Crosby and David Bowie.
Yes,
the Dolo
you
Drummer
got it.
Boy for a Christmas special. David, yeah, because that's the counter melody that was provided, not part of the normal song, but yeah. It's hard to stump me on things like that.
That was good. I'm glad you caught that.
But yeah. But my original reference was to the song One Tin Soldier, which is a great song. But it has the same message. All these people killed each other, and it turned out the treasure was just something that said peace on earth. It's like, why? I won't attempt to sing it.
My army.
And my instinct is to not sing it at my own range. My great army of trash cans and cubes. Oh, another pratfall. Like, I don't know why you work so hard to make a villain seem intimidating and then like undermine him at every second and make him like a colossal dumbass.
Maybe they were hoping the really young ones would at least be entertained.
Standing. He's not beaten.
No.
It seems like we're jumping ahead like he's defeated, but I didn't see anything happen to him. He just sort of fell over and got back up. But look, we're obviously at the, things are fixed now. What happened to him?
Did he just disappear?
Does this actually say here? I think it just comes to throwing the book. Enraged, the Duke unleashes his ultimate creation, Master Cylinder, to destroy the heroes. However, Felix throws the book at the Master Cylinder, causing it to short circuit and break down, which shuts down the rest of the cylinders. With his army gone, the Duke flees. Oh, he fled, swearing to return. So, okay, I was like, they didn't kill him, they didn't capture him, he just took off. Okay. So that big thing was the Master Cylinder. And all that happened was Felix threw a book at it. That was your big climax. He threw the book at it, literally. That was it. Felix, you're the greatest hero of this dimension. Now, please go back to your own. Oh, God. Please go away. And take these idiots with you. I know, such a Mickey ripoff. Oh boy.
Oh.
Nearly dinner time in our dimension. See, that's almost a good joke. Better than anything we've seen in this before.
Well, it took long enough. This animation is
like
such a mix.
I know, it had moments that look okay, but a lot of it is...
Yeah. From 80s Saturday morning to 70s filmation to 1920s to...
yeah. You can really
1960s even, Chipmunks.
By multiple studios. You have a heart of gold, Felix. She wouldn't even let them take some gold back to their own dimension. Like, you're the princess. Do you need it? Holy crap. Let's listen to that. And this was a theme song from the show in the 50s.
I was going to say, this is the best song of the movie.
Yep. Predates the movie. So this movie is quite the mess, as you might expect, but I don't know. It's just, oh, now we're getting some 80s. All right, Don Orleo's band has to rock out. He's like, I have a band, you know.
This is...
And that's what this is. This is Don Oriolo's band. Again, if his father was in animation,
almost like a Christmas song.
Felix, he was a musician.
Christmas.
So it's kind of sad that like Felix's only movies are like this, and that Felix Saves Christmas movie, which I haven't seen, which is supposed to also suck.
I don't think I want to.
I don't know.
After that,
I feel bad for Felix. He's like you said, he's an icon. He's an enduring part of animation history. Unfortunately, he's had way more lows than highs.
Yeah,
what can you do?
Like I said, I don't think I would ever need to go back to this movie ever again. Feel bad, like you said, for Felix, but what are you gonna do? This movie was you'd rather watch the Care Bears movie or Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipmunk Adventure, which actually I do enjoy those. Are we losing you again, Cole?
Yeah, it's all messed up for me, so I think I'll take us off in a minute because it's obviously not running smoothly at all. I don't know what more I can do. I'm really disappointed.
Well, I could hear you throughout it. I don't know if there's a...
And Sly as a Fox. So really only like Who's the Boss.
And yes, Dan, I do want to see Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And you don't need to watch Felix the Cat. But anyway, if we have to dip out of here, I think Cole's having technical difficulties. Thank you.
Joe Oriolo.
Yeah, Felix Cat Creations, Inc.
All right, that's the movie. I don't want to just end abruptly. How am I at this given moment? Okay, this might be my best chance to try to finish this off and just say goodbye without just abruptly cutting it off. So sorry, it got all messed up in the second half there. Damn it, I don't know what's going on. There's not really much else I can do. But thanks to everybody that tuned in. Hopefully we'll get things sorted out so the next one will run more smoothly. Although I'm running out of ideas, I'm not sure what else I can do.
He can't hear me back, but I was hearing you fine for most of the show. It was just some sort of delay.
This is definitely a mess.
But I know there'll be more. don't know if Cole can hear me, but to you out there watching. Yeah, I thought so, Dan. We're not in the studio or somehow. But I know we'll be back for more animated commentaries on Cole's channel here.
I don't know what's happening, but thank you. I am hearing Jess, but on a delay, so I don't know. Hopefully, if I'm talking, it'll come through there. So thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time, and hopefully it won't be such a disaster. See ya. Bye.